Okay, I'm not sure what part this is, but it is the next part of My Body by Emily Ratajkowski. I'm pretty sure that that's correct. And how do you pronounce her name? By middle school, I'd developed breasts and grown long, skinny legs, and strangers began approaching me, often at the grocery store or the mall. They'd stride up, clutching their purses, and lean toward my mother to say she should really consider modeling, as if to say, how could you deny your child such an opportunity? My parents resisted at first. My mother once barked back at a woman, she'll be a brain surgeon, but softened to the idea after I turned 13. My mother told me I could decide if I wanted to begin modeling, that it was up to me. She tells this story often, wondering, how did this all start? I'll never forget it, she says. You were looking out the window. We were visiting my brother in New York City, taking a cab to the Upper East Side to meet him. You turned to me and said, Mom, I want to try it. I'm ready. This would have been around the time Britney released Toxic, which is probably still my favorite song in her catalog. I especially like the musical interlude where she sings a long and haunting ah ah ah. I'm not gonna try to imitate Britney, but y'all know what she sounds like. That is cut off sharply by the sound of a DJ scratch. In the music video, Britney appears as a scantily dressed I'm so used to saying scantily clad, as a scantily dressed air stewardess on a plane full of old, overweight, sweaty businessmen careening through a dystopian yellow sky. Britney proceeds to spill liquid on the lap of one man, only to aggressively rub it off to the beat of the music. Intoxicate me now with your lovin' now. I think I'm ready now. I think I'm ready now. By 13, I'd learned through the hierarchy of middle school that girls who were considered hot got the most attention. They were special. Britney was like that. She commanded a type of power that, through modeling, suddenly seemed attainable. I want to be one of them, I thought. After that visit to New York, my mother drove me up to LA to meet with Ford models. I wore low-rise Frankie B jeans, my most expensive and prized item of clothing. The jeans had back pockets embellished with rhinestones, which made them hard to sit in because the hardware would pierce through the denim and into the skin of my ass. They were so low that my butt crack would peek out. I tugged up on the belt loops so often that they eventually fell off. At Ford Models, a woman in her late 30s with curly hair measured my hips over those jeans. I looked down at the top of her head as she knelt down and circled my hips with a tape, then nervously glanced at my mother. 34 inches, she announced, folding her tape measure into her hands. Then she said, more quietly, just so I could hear, we'll take a few inches off because of these pockets. Afterwards, we sat on white chairs in the waiting room. An agent brought out a thick stack of papers covered in lines and lines of small black text. My mother signed on my behalf. This is all happening so fast. I didn't expect this, she said as she wetted the tip of her finger to flip through the pages, her glasses on. Apparently, when Britney arrived at the salon and told them she wanted a buzz, the hairstylist tried to talk her out of it. Britney went ahead and grabbed a clipper and started doing it herself. She said, I don't want anyone touching me. I'm tired of everybody touching me. After parties on the weekends, Sadie and I would crash with her boyfriend, Mike, a scab crew... forgot about the scab crew. The scab crew guy who lived at a family member's house, a few blocks from the beach. I never laid eyes on the guy he lived with, but I knew he was fresh out of prison and had no interest in what we were getting up to. This was ideal. We could come in at any hour and be loud or stink up the house with weed. No one cared. Mike sold pot and E and coke out of his room. I don't know why he lived there and not with his parents. 3 of us would bunk in the same bed. Mike on the outside edge, Sadie in the middle, and me smooshed against the wall. I kept on whatever clothes I'd worn that night. Crunchy, tight jeans, mini dresses. I never slept well there, but having Mike's bed to crash in meant that I didn't have to worry about a curfew. One night, I woke in darkness, Sadie's head right next to mine on the pillow, her face turned away from me. I could make out her thick ponytail, slightly messy. I was gonna say, 2 sentences ago, in before he sexually assaults her. Anyways, hands were reaching over her, touching me. My breasts were out of my shirt, and Mike was squeezing my nipples. Oh, nice. I froze, staring at the back of Sadie's head, as I realized what was happening. I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep, sighed, then rolled over onto my stomach, out of Mike's reach. Goosebumps covered my torso and arms. I felt the cold air coming through the window above me, and tried to breathe it in, hoping to soothe myself back to sleep. I never told Sadie, or anyone else, about this late-night experience. Had I imagined it anyway? I told myself that in choosing to reach over Sadie's body to touch mine, Mike had complimented me. I told myself this was the kind of thing that would make Sadie jealous, which I knew was true. Your boyfriend likes my boobs better than yours, I thought. Did it give me some power over her? I even started to convince myself that I liked the feel of Mike's touch. Maybe I was into it, turned on even. I knew that if Sadie found out, she'd blame me. That same summer, Sadie and I would stop by Ford's offices together on our weekday trips to LA when we had some extra time in between. I'm sorry, my inflections are all off today. That same summer, Sadie and I would stop by Ford's offices together on our weekday trips to LA when we had some extra time in between castings or needed to wait out the traffic before making the 2-hour-plus commute home. Sadie would screech into the parking lot of the fancy West Hollywood high-rise and brake at the valet station with a jolt, our heads snapping forward. We'd climb out, the smell of French fries emerging with us, and my legs tingling from being seated for so long. Sadie was confident in the high heels we wore on these outings, and I'd admire her gait as I stumbled behind in mine, watching the bikini string tied around her neck bounce as she moved. We both knew to always wear our bikinis underneath our outfits whenever we came by the agency. On this particular visit, we were coming to pose for digitals, the unretouched and honest pictures the agents sent to our clients as references. Once we were on the 12th floor, in an office surrounded by huge windows offering panoramic views of Sunset Boulevard and the hills above it, we stripped down to our heels in bikinis. I remember leaning over, surrounded by agents in the middle of that large open space, pretending to adjust my heel in order to make sure my tampon string remained hidden in my bottoms. I was allowed to buy one bathing suit each summer, and the one I wore for that afternoon had seen better days. Sadie and I had spent our entire summer at the beach, and my bright red top was fading and frayed. Booking jobs that paid meant I could get a new bikini and shiny white patent leather high heels like the ones Sadie was wearing that day. Money meant freedom, and a whole other kind of power that I was only beginning to understand but felt desperate for. The strings of my bikini wrapped around my rib cage, pushing my boobs up and together. I arched my back and stuck my butt out as I walked dutifully behind a young assistant, past the agents sitting at their computers. "That body," crooned a gay male agent, his eyes flashing up at me as I walked by. I grinned. I wonder how he would... Sorry, I had to cut that one off, and then it wasn't right, like, where I cut it off. But I was saying I don't really know. I don't think that he would have said it in that tone. Like, "That body," I don't know, crooned a gay male agent, his eyes flashing up at me as I walked by. I grinned. Sadie had her pictures taken after me, pushing her chin down and squinting her eyes slightly as she shifted her weight to pop a hip out. Her bikini was black and low and hit her hips just at the right point. I watched her, comparing our dimensions in my head. I felt too curvy, maybe even fat, and definitely too short next to Sadie in her heels. "Work it, girl," the assistant said as he watched Sadie move and pose. I stood up straighter and sniffed the air, trying to see if I could smell my BO. As soon as the digitals were done, the agent snapped, Let's take a look at your books, girls," spinning around in his office chair, waving us over. We shuffled over to his wide desk, still half naked, clutching our oversized white portfolios. "Girls, you leave these in the hot car too often, I can tell. The plastic pages are wrinkling." He tisked, flipping through page after page of our pictures. "Can we get these girls some new books?" Sadie and I exchanged glances, knowing that these new portfolios would show up as deductions in the fine print of our next paychecks. I peered down as he paused at side-by-side, up-close images of my face. My lips pursed and my mouth open on one page, and my eyes half closed on the other. "Now this is the look. This is how we know a girl gets fucked." He pointed down at the pictures. I don't know. Sadie shoved me and smirked. "It's true." A female agent chimed in from her desk. All of this is wrong. I'm so sorry, and I'm not editing it. I peered as he paused I peered down as he paused at side-by-side, up-close images of my face. My lips pursed and my mouth open on one page, and my eyes half closed on the other. "Now this is the look. This is how we know a girl gets fucked." He pointed down at the pictures. Sadie shoved me and smirked. "It's true," a female agent chimed in from her desk. "We always know which girls are having sex by their pictures." My face felt hot as I glanced from the agent to Sadie. I wanted to check in with her. Was this something to be proud of? I felt a strange sense of confidence rise up in me as the agents nodded approvingly. I was the sexy one, and everyone around me seemed to agree that it was a good thing. It made me different and special, and maybe even powerful. I wrapped my hands around my ribcage and pushed my boobs up further, smiling. Yeah, that's pretty relatable. That's why so many women are liberal feminists. They just can't let go of that delusion. One of the Britney songs everyone but me loved was Lucky. Oh, I love that one. I love that one too. Not everybody but you. In the video, Britney appears in 2 roles. She sings the lyrics, acting as a kind of narrator while watching over her other, more glamorous self, who receives awards and basks in the adulation of her fans. This second Britney lives in a huge, fancy, empty house and walks around alone in a pink robe and diamond necklace. Like now, I guess. Staring into an old-fashioned hand mirror. At times, there are 3 Britneys in the frame, the narrator, the adored and lonely Britney, and the latter's reflection. Sad Britney was not what I wanted to see. Sorry, I'm having a lot of issues with this video editor. Sad Britney was not what I wanted to see. I didn't want to hear about how lonely she felt despite all her success. The video ends as glamorous Britney rolls over in her bed, her makeup smeared, and a look in her eye not unlike the one we'd see just a few years later as she stared into a mirror with a clipper in her hand. Oh, that's got the lyrics again. She's so lucky, she's a star, but she cries in her lonely heart, thinking, if there's nothing missing in my life, then why do these tears come at night? I don't ever recall liking modeling, really, and I've often wondered whether Sadie did either. I remember watching myself in a mirror once at a shoot, though professionally made up, looking years older than I actually was, opening my mouth, pushing my lips out, and arching my back as the photographer clicked away. I liked my image in that moment, or at least I was struck by that girl. I was desirable, I was wanted, and I knew that if any girl from school, particularly Sadie, saw me like this, she'd be wild with jealousy. So even when I felt scared and uneasy at the apartments of middle-aged male photographers who had me change in their tiny bathrooms where I was surrounded by their deodorants and shaving kits and condoms, and who, as I emerged into their studios, asked me whether I had a boyfriend or made comments about my body, I told myself I was lucky. I had photographic evidence of my value, and I was even beginning to save some money. Oh, lost in an image, in a dream, and the world is spinning, and she keeps on winning. I need to listen to this song. I really love this fucking song. In high school, when I told people I was debating between college and a full-time modeling career, they'd warn me, models have an age limit. Their careers are over by 30. This always annoyed me. I thought those saying it were being sexist and ageist, implying that women couldn't be older and still be beautiful. That's the industry you're in, girl! But now I think they were right. Yeah, she came around. I mean, obviously. This book is super underrated. Like, it's a good-ass book. Now I think they were right, even if by accident. Maybe women can't keep winning past the age of 30. Sadie and I drifted apart during her senior year and my junior year. We'd never known how to be real friends anyway, how to protect each other, how to talk about the things that happened to us at house parties or at castings or with agents. Early in our friendship, we began seeing one another as competitors rather than allies. During the last summer we spent together, we hung out with a group of boys who made a habit of sneaking into a rich kid's parents' home. Mike was out of the picture by then, and we came to rely on this new place as our crash pad on late nights. We'd crawl in through a window and listen carefully, making sure no one was home. We'd push past one another to claim our rooms. Staying there felt safer than staying at Mike's ever had, even though we were undoubtedly breaking and entering. One night I spent there with my boyfriend. I got my period in my sleep, gushing bright red blood all over the master bedroom's sheets. When we woke up, my boyfriend was convinced our cover would be blown, and that the kids' parents would have us all sent away for life because of the bloody mess I'd made of their bed. He looked at me in panic and, embarrassed, I went and told Sadie what had happened. Sadie followed me back to the bedroom, calmly took the sheets off the bed, and walked to the bathroom without saying a word. She pushed up her sleeves and ran cold water in the sink. I watched from behind her as the water turned brown and red. She wrung them out with her hands and then put the sheets in the washing machine. It might have been the only time I ever felt as if she was truly my friend. When I thanked her, she shrugged it off as nothing. Eventually, Sadie went off to college in San Francisco. Whenever I saw an update about her on Facebook, my stomach would tighten and twist with anxiety, remembering our time spent together and the person I was at 15. I stayed abreast of her life, routinely checking in on her social media every couple of months to see what she was up to. She cut her hair super short. She bleached it blonde. She fell in love with a much older, punk-looking guy. She broke up with him. Her legs got skinnier, I noticed. She visited Japan. She moved to LA. She went to art school. She stopped wearing clothes that showed her legs at all. I could feel her watching me, too. I wondered how my life appeared to her. I wished I could see it through her eyes. Also relatable. One day she wrote me a message. It was filled with over-punctuation and extended ha-ha-has, which surprised me because the Sadie I'd known had been aloof and unflappable. Now she was over-punctuating. We went back and forth, updating each other on the basics of our lives. She told me she'd run into a boyfriend of mine at a club in LA where a lot of artists hung out. Of course she would be there, I thought. She is still fucking cool after all these years. She explained that she had gone up to him and said hi. I was ranting about how we went to high school in a demented beach town and hung out with a lot of skaters, she said. I bristled. I didn't want to reminisce. I was sure that somehow the conversation would lead me back to my 15-year-old self, silent and complicit in bed at Mike's house, or uncomfortable and unsure at castings. I was embarrassed by that version of myself. I hated that Sadie had known her. Also very relatable. Sorry there's so much commentary in this one. We've now lived in two of the same major cities, New York and Los Angeles, at the same time. She's an artist. We know some of the same people. Our friend groups overlap. It seems that Sadie has real female friends now. Sometimes I wonder if in an alternate universe, one in which we'd become actual friends, we could have helped each other navigate these unfamiliar cities and worlds through our 20s. Mostly, I'm just glad to see that she has created a life that, unlike our high school existence, doesn't appear to exclusively revolve around the attention of boys and men. I'm sorry we never focused on the right things when they mattered most, but I'm glad to know she's okay. I only wish I'd told her in high school how strong I thought she was, how I would have liked to have known her better. Googling Brittany shaved head now brings up a picture I don't remember having seen. Brittany's arms are raised as if she's touching what remains of her hair. There's no clipper in sight. It's almost peaceful. She's pulled back from the mirror, not looking at us, but past us. Her small button nose and big doll eyes are glossy, her gaze far away. She seems relieved. It's almost painterly, this photo, reminiscent of girl with a pearl earring, but whereas the girl in the painting has a turban covering her head, Brittany's hair is gone, and in its place, her shockingly naked scalp. It surprises you. It feels violent. A warning. And this one, next one is BC Hello Halle Berry. Next chapter, I guess. It started raining on the island in the morning. We watched the drops form small, perfect circles on the surface of the pool, and S opened the sliding glass door to let in the heavy air and the sound of rain. We were silent as we lay in bed, our minds still fuzzy from sleep, and our tanned bodies tucked under the crisp white sheet. My skin smelled like salt water and expensive sunscreen, tangy and unfamiliar. I held my coffee on my chest and stared blankly at the giant gray clouds as they inched across the sprawling Indian Ocean. Framed by the edges of the sliding door, the infinity pool bleeding into the ocean looked like a screensaver. The clouds moved so quietly that I was getting a headache trying to follow them. I felt tiny, as if I could be swept away if I wasn't careful. Was it our third day here? Time seemed irrelevant. We were truly in the middle of nowhere, floating on an ocean on the other side of the planet. We used our thumbs to check on our lives back home, but no one was awake to deliver news anyway. It was just the two of us and our iPhones. iPhones. Just say phone! In a room built on thick wooden stilts sunk deep into the ocean floor. I moved slowly, getting out of bed. The soles of my feet were cool against the smooth floors. The tap-tap of the rain followed me as I walked to the bathroom. I caught glimpses of my naked body in the mirrors lining the walls. I looked freckled and young, sleepy in a way that people sometimes consider sweet and charming. I washed my face and studied myself, adding mascara to my puffy eyes while sipping my cold coffee. Now seems like the right time to get a photo out of the way, I thought. S wouldn't even need to get out of bed to take this shot. I hummed to myself as I quickly ran a dry razor under my arms and squeezed lotion onto my thighs. I rummaged through my suitcase to find a bikini from my own line. Oh, she had like a line of bikinis now. And began untangling a particularly stringy orange top, remembering that we'd never shot this one before. Kat, my business partner and friend, had reminded me before I left that it was important to get a picture of myself wearing this particular design. The suits generally don't sell as well if there's no photo of me in them. I pulled the bottom up and leaned over to make sure my breasts fell into the triangle top correctly. S, I called from the bathroom, I need you to take a picture. Sure, he smiled at me as I walked, still barefoot, toward the bed. Well, don't you look pretty, he said gently, opening the camera on his phone. Thanks. I felt my cheeks grow hot. When S and I first met, I'd been embarrassed by my relationship to Instagram, by the desire, at that point in my career, to increase my followers so I could continue getting paid by brands to promote their products. I hated having to ask him, as I sometimes did, to take my photo to make that happen. It took me 6 months to get over my shame and call upon him to participate. While cheesy, it paid the bills. The ability to make a living off my own image shouldn't be cause for embarrassment, I figured. I moved to the center of the view, facing the water, and placed my feet on the metal ledge of the sliding glass door, just a few inches from the downpour, but still dry and out of the rain. Thought we should get this out of the way. Look at me, S instructed, and I did, feeling the fat of my ass fold into the back of my leg, my expression blank. Got it, he said, passing me the phone. I posted the image, unfiltered, knowing that people like seeing a picture they might have taken themselves. I captioned it, "Hi, this is my butt in Inamorata woman." Simple and to the point. I made sure to add tags so followers could buy the suit straight from the app. We rode to the breakfast buffet on the bikes provided by the hotel. I put on S's tie-dye tank top over my bikini and one of the hotel's rain-resistant hoodies over that. As our sneakers pushed against the pedals, all we could hear was the soft tapping of raindrops hitting thick, oversized green leaves and the crunch of our rubber tires against the white sand. We raided the opulent buffet, 2 plates each, piled high with everything from dim sum to French toast. I smirked at S as he examined my ridiculously full plates, and we sat down at the table. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram, holding up the screen as I crammed a piece of toast into my tiny jar of jam. 500,000 in an hour, not bad. Damn, that's a lot, S said, chewing on a piece of dim sum. Is that how you say that? I hope so. I nodded and ate my toast, watching the sales of the bikini rise. We'd made a decent amount of cash and added 3,000 new followers to the brand's account, and the US wasn't even awake yet. I didn't bother to check the count of my own followers. I didn't need to. I knew that whenever I posted something sexy, I'd lose some of them. The next day, however, without fail, a wave of new followers would arrive. I'm still addicted to the sensation I get watching a post go crazy with comments and likes on Instagram. Casually snapping a picture and uploading it for 28 million people provides a pretty serious high. There's a thrill in knowing that folks all over the world might be talking about what I posted. It's quite a rush to create a tidal wave like that whenever I want. For better or worse, I've always been drawn to overexposure. Making myself big gives me a sense of security. Be the loudest in the room. Be the most opinionated, the one in the most revealing dress. Do the most. Being big also means becoming a target. But by inviting people's gaze and attention, and therefore their attacks, I have a sense of more power, less vulnerability, since I'm the one putting myself out there. Or at least that's how it feels, some of the time. I was getting paid to take this vacation with S. A large hotel conglomerate had just opened a new luxury resort in the Maldives. Is that how you say it? The hotel cost $400 million to build. The island was owned by some super rich guy from Qatar, is that how you say that? Who learned from the general manager, a French man wearing all white who came and found us at breakfast. The hotel group needed to generate awareness, and having me visit and tag their account and the location was valuable to them. For this kind of advertisement, I was able to make a shit ton of money just by vacationing here for 5 days and posting the occasional picture. The rain stopped just long enough for the 10-minute ride back to our room. As we cycled slowly over the wet white sand, employees in starched uniforms paused their raking to hold their hands together up to their chests and bow their heads slightly. I nodded and smiled in return. The fuzziness I'd felt earlier while watching the storm from our bed was developing into a full-on headache. I lay down and poured myself a big glass of water, unlocking my phone to check my post again. 789,357 likes. I moved my thumb down the screen and saw the number refresh. 791,476. I looked over at S, who was scrolling through Twitter. Even in this exotic setting, we could not stay away from our screens. The back of my eye sockets throbbed. I felt a distinct impulse to throw my phone into the turquoise ocean in front of us. Instead, I buried myself in the poofy white pillows. Next to the bed was Demi Moore's memoir, Inside Out. I'd finished it the night before, S sleeping beside me as I read. Demi's final message to the reader stuck with me. Maybe some part of this story is yours, too. I sure as hell hope not, I thought. But she was right, even if she couldn't have known how directly some aspects of her life resembled mine, for instance, the way she used her body to succeed. Now, I studied her black and white portrait on the cover, feeling annoyed with myself. I judged Demi before reading her book. I thought of her as sexy and not much else. You of all people, you who just posted your ass on Instagram and have the audacity to bitch about the world not taking you seriously, what a fucking hypocrite. I wanted to be able to have my Instagram hustle, selling bikinis and whatever else, while also being respected for my ideas in politics and, well, everything besides my body. I pressed my fingers into my forehead and shut my eyes tightly. Everything felt like a mistake. My stay in this bizarrely perfect environment, the followers seeing my image and judging it. At what cost did Jesus, I'm sorry. At what cost did this vacation come? I was getting paid by a corporation owned by some billionaire, who made his fortune how, exactly? And posting images that encouraged the world to see my body as my primary value. It's my fault. My stomach tightened. Maybe I should jump in the ocean, I thought. Purify myself in the rain and salt water. I was born a year after Demi starred in Ghost. Demi. Isn't that how you say her name? Demi Moore. I hear people say Demi Moore. The film that in Ghost. I was born a year after Demi starred in Ghost, the film that propelled her to fame. By the time I could read tabloid covers in the checkout line, her time as a respected actress had morphed into something else, and I absorbed the idea that she was more interesting for her love life than for her acting. I remembered her in Charlie's Angels, climbing out of the water in a black bikini. I'd always thought of her as beautiful, sure, but certainly not as serious. I'd only picked up Demi's book because I read her co-writer's memoir and liked it. I texted my friend Jessica. Fuck, even I have internalized misogyny. No way. Jessica and I exchanged texts like this regularly. She'd get it, or maybe not. Jessica came from money, and I wasn't sure if she'd ever considered capitalizing on her body the way that I've done. Then again, she'd married a much older and financially successful man when she was very young. Model or influencer or actor or not, all women know what it's like to use their sexuality for security in some capacity, I thought. Anyway, it was the middle of the night where she was. I fought the urge to go back to Instagram to check my likes and comments. I dropped the phone on the ground next to the bed and turned to S, my headache pounding. Later, the sun broke through the clouds and we headed down to the beach, bringing a bag full of books. And our iPhones! We dipped in the warm ocean and floated in the salty water, far from everything and everyone back home. I brought my legs around S's torso, feeling the weightlessness of my body in the water. We kissed and marveled at our surroundings. The big sky wrapped around us. Being here makes me think a lot about money, S said once we returned to our beach chairs as he sprayed white sunscreen onto his face. I inspected the other guests from behind my sunglasses. Rich people, I muttered, as we began to speculate. How did they even decide where they were going on vacation? Did they go to the same places again and again? Did their kids fly first class too? How much would this vacation of ours cost anyway? You don't know yet? You're wondering about other rich people? I know she doesn't make as much money as a lot of the people who are at these places, but come on. We tallied the prices of the flights, the drinks, and the meals. Damn, I said, this shit is rich as fuck. Yeah, but we're living it, baby. We're living like really rich people. I tugged my hat brim down to shade the tip of my nose as I reached for my pina colada. But I played the system, I said, taking a big sip of alcohol. I felt the sweetness rush in between my teeth. S made a face. What do you mean, he asked. I pointed out that we weren't like the other guests at this resort. We wouldn't spend our own money to come here. It's too expensive. These people, they could shut off their phones if they wanted to, I said. And what about the owner of this island, or the hotel conglomerate? The money I'm making here is a drop in the bucket for their $400 million. It's insignificant, even laughable, next to the net worth of the guy who owns the property. I'm here as a pawn, here to help their business. I'm an advertisement, not a vacationing guest. S slowly cracked a smile, the lines around his eyes showing. Come on, baby, he said, reaching out a finger to tickle my armpit. Ew. You're a capitalist, too. Admit it. I wiggled away, slightly annoyed. I took a gulp of pina colada too quickly and felt my sinuses burn from the sudden chill. I'm trying to succeed in a capitalist system. I pinched the bridge of my nose, but that doesn't mean I like the game. Like I said, I work the system. S shook his head and let out a chuckle, rubbing more sunscreen onto his arm. I searched through the screenshot saved on my phone and held it up to him. He squinted to read out loud, "Fuck capitalism, but until it's fucked, keep getting that bag." "Whatever you say," he laughed. I looked down at my stomach, adjusting the top of my bikini. At least this paid vacation, or job, or whatever one I wanted to call it, gave me the chance to push my own brand, which I'd started, financed, and now operated with only the help of Kat, who owned a percentage of the company. Kat was a senior at my high school when I was a freshman, and when I moved to New York, we'd reconnected and become close friends. She worked in fashion for years before she joined me. Kat's boyfriend was almost 10 years older than she, divorced with 2 kids. He managed a real estate investment trust and owned several homes. When he'd ask Kat about business, she didn't like to answer or give specific numbers. "It's just weird," she whispered to me, even though no one else was around. "It's like, I don't want to tell him anything until, like, we can really blow his mind, you know? He's in it. One of the boys. I don't want to be the girls running a cute business. I want to fuck them all up." I knew what she meant. I also wanted to be someone men like that couldn't dismiss. While I wasn't at all interested in becoming a girl boss type, I figured it would be stupid to use my body to promote some rich guy's bikini line instead of my own. Okay, that's not the end of the chapter, but I've been reading half an hour and there's not a lot of memory on my phone, so like I have to go and delete a bunch of stuff and then like upload this video and then delete the one before it, and like, so I try to keep them kind of short. Anyway, thank you for listening. And I guess I'm going to talk about it a little bit now at the end, so you know now that there's no more like actually reading, so you can stop listening. But yeah, I don't know, I really like this book, and I like her. I mean, obviously she's kind of spoiled and hypocritical, but her experience is really interesting, and it's very relatable to me. I know it's not to a lot of women, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, that my girlfriend wanted me to read this because she said that she couldn't relate to it, but I could. And I do. Like, a lot of it, especially like the whole developing early and being sexualized like from the very beginning. That was, it's hard. And a lot of the stuff in here, And I don't know. I think that this woman's voice is valuable, and that's why I'm going to finish this book and post all of it on here, and I hope people will read it. But when I'm done with this one, I'm going to get into more, I don't want to say more serious, because this book is serious. It's very serious. If you listen to the things that happen to this woman and some of the other women she talks about, like, I think it's important for feminists to read.